So, you know, the people I see when they walk into my office, they know they have a problem. They wouldn't be seeing me, but they do describe, and some of them are not quite ready for treatment, or for full-blown treatment, or ready enough to consult with me and have, they're having some concerns. But what they'll describe is going on at work as they're struggling. They're going, I know I have a problem. I'm not quite accepting that I can never drink again, that I can never use again. Particularly drinking. So let me focus on that, since first of all, that is our most common substance use disorder that people seek treatment for. It's still way more common than cannabis or opioid treatment and stimulants. It's by far the most common. So, and that has to do with the fact that alcohol is an acceptable, form of recreation and legal and all of that. So what they'll find is that they're struggling to, let's say, maybe even cut back on their drinking, which some folks can. If they have a mild use disorder, they can actually walk it back. They're not in a full brain addiction mode yet. And other folks are still not ready to accept that they have to give up this beloved substance that they like. So here they are in a work environment in which there may be, very commonly in the tech industries, for example, there may be beer available in the refrigerator on site, and then they can available to them at any time. There's a culture where going out to drink is extremely popular, fun to do after work. And then on business trips, one thing I've noticed with a lot of my men who are working in corporate America, there will not only be drinking, but then they'll be like moving from drinking to going to some of this, strip clubs, and then use with cocaine and methamphetamine. Very, very common, honestly, with the business trips. So it's just in the culture. It's part of the socializing. They feel, when they say, "Oh, I don't drink," or "I'm trying to cut back," people go, "Why?" They try to push them. So there's a lot of push and pull, and then at some point, the brain, there is a very real addiction pathway that starts in the most primitive part of the brain, goes through the emotional center, and ends up in the prefrontal cortex, which is the CEO of the brain, and tells us slow down. It helps us with our impulse control. And that gets taken over. So you've got your peers pushing you to drink, or maybe to use some stimulants along the way. And at some point, your brain just goes, sure, I'm going to get into it. You can't stop that process. It's just going to take you over no matter what your intention is. So if you have a culture at work, which is particularly alcohol oriented, and that's what you're struggling with. And by the way, a lot of people will identify alcohol as not their problem, but identify, oh, I'm really got cocaine as my problem. This is a common thing. But as they go into recovery, they realize the alcohol has been disinhibiting them to enter into the other drug use. And that's extremely common. So this is, subtle stuff, but important to be aware of. So if you have a culture inside your work environment that's supporting a lot of drinking, supporting having fun and partying with drugs, on business trips, etc., it is very difficult for a person who is struggling with that brain impulses that are taking them over. It is not a matter of willpower. It's a matter of neurobiology. It takes them over, and they start easily, drinking and using because they're getting triggered into cravings that are just not going to, they can't stop on their own without treatment and help.